It's been a while. I took a bit of a break. I got a haircut, which I love. It's pretty much like shaved, which is something really new for me, but I got like hair. It's so much shorter than I anticipated, but I feel so much freer without all the hair I had before. And you guys can probably pick up in my videos now, I'm feeling a little better about filming again just because I'm working on some things. I got better lighting, which makes me feel so much more excited about filming videos. And also, yeah, just there's no hair back there. It's great. Hey everybody, welcome to another video and welcome back. Sorry about my little hiatus. Actually, I'm not sorry about my little hiatus, although I did miss making videos. I just needed to take a little hiatus to get some things in order. But I am back. My bookshelves look a little different, and if you guys follow me on Instagram, you'll probably understand why. And I blame Lindsay from the Books for Christian Girls for this. It was fun though to do that with her and to make a rainbow bookshelf, but I'm not doing that again. But anyway, we're here today to do my July wrap-up. And yes, it's already time to wrap up July. I want to talk about the books I read in July and let you guys know what I thought about them. So here we go. So for July, I read 8 books, and right now I'm tracking them in my novel companion by Little Inkling Designs. I might do a flip through. A couple of you guys have been asking for a flip through for this, so we'll see what I get to for that. But I am tracking them in here because Goodreads is still messing up some rereads and has extra copies of stuff that don't need to be there. I'm still on track for my Goodreads goal, but I feel like I have more books on there than I've had actually read. So I've been tracking them on this, and this is a lot more accurate because when I finish a book, I color a book in. So this has been a lot more accurate. So for the month of July, I read 8 books, which was pretty darn good and one of my best reading months. Yes, since I started my new job, since I started my new full-time job and still my part-time job, this has been the best reading month since starting that new full-time. A lot of that is thanks to audiobooks, and the first audiobook I read this month is Long May She Reign by Rhiannon Tom. But we follow Freya, who is like 48th or something in line for this throne. She prefers to be at home doing science and experiments rather than dealing with the court and stuff, and even has plans to leave for the mainland to study and do science rather than to be caught up in court drama. Thanks to a mysterious poisonous attack onto the royal family, Freya is found to be the only living heir to the throne, or the next in line for the throne, because the entire royal family and royal court were brutally murdered. I gave this book a 3-star rating. I really enjoyed it, but it's still very typical YA trope. But as you guys can figure out, I really like tropey YA books, and that's the reason I like YA, is because of the YA tropes. I mean, let's face it, if it's very similar to other books you read, it's probably because you like those books, and so you're going to read other books like that. I really liked the pacing of the story. I liked the relationships and how they were built in the story as well. I really liked the twists and turns in the mystery, but what I also really liked is how analytical Freya was and how she wanted to figure out this mystery and solve all of this, but she had a very analytical mind. She didn't really just trust in what people said. She needed to figure it out for herself, so that was a lot of fun. And her character, she was very intelligent and very focused on that. For content, I guarantee it a clean read. I believe there's a little bit of like cursing, but it's made up, so you can't really, like, it's made up words and they don't really sound like curses or swearing, or they just said, and she cursed out loud. So like there's language, but it's not language. So if you guys are okay with that type of fictional language, I guess I can call it, there's a little bit of that in there. There really isn't anything romance related content wise. Violence, I would definitely give it a bit of a heads up for violence, and then yeah, that's about it. So violence and a little bit of fictional language. Overall, I gave it a 3-star rating. Like I said, it was really YA tropey, but I really enjoyed it, and I just thought it was a lot of fun. And normally I'm not a huge political intrigue person when it comes to fiction, but I really enjoyed this one, and I loved the plot twist. So I gave it a 3-star rating. Was a fun read. The next book I read, I also listened to an audiobook on Scribd, and that was The Orphans Wish by Melanie Dickerson. You guys know this is one of my highly anticipated books for 2018, and you guys have already seen my review for this one, so I'm not going to go too much into detail. It wasn't my favorite, but I do go more into that into my review, which I did for a Just Reads takeover tour, which was a lot of fun to do. So you guys are welcome to go check that out. I'll leave it linked up here for you guys to do so. It was a great fun read. I really enjoyed Melanie's characters again, but I felt it was a little lacking in some aspects for me. The next book I read was also my classic for the month, and of course I listened to this one on audiobook as well, but that was Mansfield Park by Jane Austen. I got back into the Jane Austen vibe. I really enjoyed this one. Still not my favorite Jane Austen book. I liked the story. I really liked Fanny Price as a character, but I felt like Jane Austen's romances felt like really lacked in this one. It was just like, oh, you know, you've been the girl I wanted this whole time and I didn't see it. So they just got married. Like, that was it. It was just like, she goes through all of this, and that's just, they got married, is how they ended the book. It's like, okay, cool. I still gave it a 4-star rating. It's still so brilliantly written. I like the conversations and the banter and the way Jane Austen writes. So I really enjoyed it. And again, I really enjoyed Fanny Price's character. I just didn't like the ending. It felt so wrapped up for me, and just so after everything Fanny's gone through, it was just like, and then it ended. The next book was a reread as well as a buddy read with Sam from Sam's Nonsense and Felicia from the Little Prairie Library. We buddy read Maud by Melanie J. Fishbane. Well, they buddy read it and I straggled along behind because I got left behind pretty much. They read super fast and I'm just like, I'm coming guys, I'm coming. It was great fun to read it with people and to hear their comments and stuff on it and to have them agree with things that you agree with. So it's still one of my favorite books. I absolutely love this story. And the story of Maud, she's so inspirational. I just feel so empowered after I read this book to see what she's gone through. And a lot of it's been very similar to what I've gone through. And I just feel like I can take on the world after I read Maud's book. And I'm always so proud of her at the end of the book when she gets accomplished what she wants to do. And so I just feel so proud of Maud after I finish this book. And yes, the description of Winnipeg is so accurate it makes me homesick. I then listened to another audiobook, and this was The False Prince by Jennifer A. Nelson. This was so good. So it's a middle grade book. It follows Sage, who's this orphan boy captured along with 2 other orphan boys, and they're taken by this noble who's going to groom them into the lost prince, essentially to save the kingdom. I loved this. It had a lot of fun intrigue. It wasn't really full action adventure-y, but they kept it really light and the story kept going even though there wasn't a lot of action for it. So I really enjoyed this, as well as Sage's character is hilarious and he's also very intelligent for his age. I almost think though that the author wrote this character older than he actually is in the book. So I felt like this character was like 17 or 18 when he's only like 14, 15. So I just felt like he was a little too old written-wise for what he was actually in the book. I gave it a 5-star rating. It's very clean. It is a great middle grade book. It is appropriate for middle grades and YA, so I felt it was very appropriate for both the ages. It was a lot of fun to read and had some great twists and turns and just a lot of fun, snappy characters. Then I finally finished What Keeps You Up at Night, How to Find Peace While Chasing Your Dreams by Pete Wilson. I have discovered that I am not a huge nonfiction reader. This was such a struggle. I've been reading it since like February. I gave it a 4-star rating. As you can see from all the tabs, I found some really good points to it. I highlighted and annotated a lot of this book, so I did enjoy and get a lot out of this book. I then read my next contender for my favorite book of 2018, and that was Fox by Nadine Brandes. I loved this. And I'm going to be doing a full review of this. I don't know when, but there will be one coming up, so I'm not going to go too much into detail for this. But I loved this book. It was so good. The audiobook is amazing. The story for this is incredible. I loved how she took church history and made a magical, fictional, historical setting for that. And it was absolutely amazing. It blew my mind. And I just need everybody to read this book. I gave it a 5-star rating. I guarantee it a clean read, except for some violent moments. There's violent, but it's like historical. So if you know the history of this time period, you understand there's some violence. It also touches on a great topic of racism and how people are like, not that racism's a great topic, but it touches in a great way about racism and discusses that. So it was just a really good message in there as well. And I just can't sing its praises enough. You guys need to go read this. The audiobook is available on Scribd if you can't get to the book right away. So you should go and do that. Alright, the last book I read for July was The Scourge by Jennifer A. Nelson. As you guys figured out, I have a new favorite author. I really enjoyed this. It follows, I forgot her name. It follows Annie, who's kind of like the lowest of the low of people in this fictional setting, and there's this disease going around called the Scourge, and she and her best friend get taken and are pronounced to have the Scourge and get sent to the Scourge Island where they're supposed to live out their life. But she and her friend Weevil discover there's a lot more to this than meets the eye, and they kind of unwrap what's going on, and this whole kind of political intrigue adventure ensues. Again, political intrigue. But it was just so fascinating. I loved the way this story took place and where it went with things. And the characters were super fun. They were well written for their ages they were supposed to be, so I really liked that. Also a strong power of like enemies becoming friends. I loved that as well. And just, it was a lot of fun. There's a great attention to detail, the way she draws out a story. And overall, it was a lot of fun to read, and I don't know how many times I've said fun, but I really enjoyed this book. Overall, I gave it a 4-star rating. I don't have anything to complain about it content-wise. Yeah, like maybe violence again, but very light, mild violence. So I don't have anything content-wise to give a heads up. I do think it's appropriate for middle grade as well as young adult would enjoy it as well. So if you're looking for some middle grade books, Jennifer A. Nelson is a very solid author for that. As always, if you guys have any questions about the books I've mentioned on here, if you guys have any content questions, I try to answer them without spoiling the book, so feel free to leave those in the comments below. And if you guys have read any of these books, I'd love to hear what you thought about them, so leave them in the comments below. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!